whatever when I shook hands with the alien princess, and I don't know why. The alien princess extended her crystalline hand toward Jake Morrison, and he took it without hesitation. The moment their skin touched, Ambassador Lisa Grant began to shake. Not a subtle tremor, but a violent quaking that spread through her entire body. Her eyes went wide, pupils dilating as she stumbled backward into the diplomatic table. Jake released the princess's hand immediately, turning to Lisa in alarm, but she held up a shaking palm to stop him from approaching. The princess, whose name translated roughly to Crystalline Dawn, tilted her elongated head in confusion. Her translator device chirped and hummed, trying to make sense of the situation. Jake had been briefed on dozens of alien species before this mission, but nothing prepared him for this moment. Lisa was the most composed person he knew. She had negotiated trade agreements with the warlike Kreneth without flinching. She had walked through toxic atmospheres in a punctured suit and kept her breathing steady. Now she looked like she might collapse. The princess spoke in her musical language, and the translator rendered it into flat English. "Why does your companion suffer? Is the human male toxic to her kind?" Jake wanted to laugh at the absurdity, but Lisa's condition was worsening. Her lips had turned pale, and sweat beaded on her forehead. He had been hired as her personal security detail 3 months ago, brought onto the diplomatic corps because of his military background and his unusual ability to read alien body language. The government had called it a gift. His sergeant had called it witch doctor nonsense. Either way, it kept him employed and off-Earth, which was exactly where he wanted to be. The princess retracted her hand slowly, folding it against her chest in what Jake recognized as a gesture of concern among her people. The crystalline were known throughout the galaxy as peaceful mediators, their nervous systems so sensitive to emotional distress that they physically could not engage in violence without experiencing crippling pain. This made them perfect diplomats and terrible warriors. Lisa finally found her voice, though it came out strangled. "Get her out. Now." Jake moved between them instinctively, not threatening, but present. The princess backed away gracefully, her 3-jointed legs carrying her toward the exit with fluid precision. Her entourage of 4 crystalline attendants surrounded her, their own expressions radiating confusion and worry. The moment the door sealed behind them, Lisa collapsed. Jake caught her before she hit the floor, lowering her carefully into one of the chairs designed for human physiology. Her whole body continued to shake, muscles spasming in ways that looked painful. He checked her vital signs with the medical scanner built into his wrist display. Heart rate was through the ceiling. Adrenaline levels spiked beyond anything he had seen outside of combat situations. But there was something else, an unknown compound flooding her bloodstream, something the scanner could not identify. Lisa gripped his arm with surprising strength. She tried to speak, but only managed broken syllables. Jake activated his emergency beacon, calling for medical support. The response came back immediately. Medical team was 10 minutes out. He did not think Lisa had 10 minutes. Whatever was happening to her was accelerating. Her eyes had started to glow faintly, a soft blue light emanating from her irises. That was definitely not normal. Jake had seen a lot of weird things in his 5 years working off-world, but humans did not glow. He made a decision that probably violated at least 6 different protocols. He opened a direct channel to the princess, bypassing the official diplomatic frequencies. The crystalline answered immediately, her face filling his display. "What have you done to her?" he demanded. The princess's expression shifted through several emotions he could not quite parse. "Done? We have done nothing. But your touch, something about when I shook your hand," she started. The princess interrupted him, her musical voice taking on an urgent tone. "The human female, she has been exposed to resonance, has she not?" Jake had no idea what that meant. He told her so. The princess's attendants crowded around her, speaking rapidly in their own language. One of them pushed forward, speaking directly into the translator. "How long has she been in contact with crystalline artifacts? Weeks? Months?" Jake's mind raced. Lisa had been studying crystalline culture for years. Her quarters were filled with their artwork, their music, their historical texts. She had immersed herself in their civilization more deeply than any other human diplomat. He told them this. The attendant who had spoken made a sound like wind chimes in a storm. "She has been changed. When you, unbonded human, touched our princess, the ambassador felt the resonance complete its cycle. She is becoming something new." Jake looked down at Lisa. The glow in her eyes had spread to her fingertips. Her shaking had stopped, but now she seemed frozen, barely breathing. He asked the only question that mattered. "Can you fix her?" The princess leaned closer to her display, and for the first time Jake saw something like fear in an alien's expression. "We do not know if she needs fixing. We do not know what she is becoming. The resonance has never touched a human before. Your species was thought immune." The medical team burst through the door, but Jake barely noticed them. He was too busy watching Lisa's skin begin to shimmer with the same crystalline quality as the princess's hand. Whatever was happening, it had only just begun. The medical bay hummed with activity as 3 doctors crowded around Lisa's suspended form. She floated in a containment field, her body still glowing with that unnatural blue light. Jake stood outside the transparent barrier, hands pressed against the cool surface, watching her transform. Dr. Martin Chen worked the controls with practiced efficiency, running scan after scan. Each one came back with results that made less sense than the last. "Her cellular structure is changing at the molecular level," he said without looking up. "I have never seen anything like this." Jake had been standing there for 4 hours. His legs ached, his eyes burned, but he refused to leave. The princess and her entourage had been quarantined in a separate section of the station, held there by nervous security forces who did not understand what was happening any better than Jake did. Station Commander Patricia Vale had arrived an hour ago, her crisp uniform a stark contrast to the chaos around them. She stood beside Jake now, her expression unreadable. "This could be an act of war," she said quietly. "An biological weapon disguised as a diplomatic gesture?" Jake shook his head. The princess seemed as shocked as we were. She did not know this would happen. Commander Vale's jaw tightened. "What we know and what we can prove to the Coalition Council are 2 very different things. If Ambassador Grant dies, or if whatever she is becoming poses a threat, we will have no choice but to respond." Inside the containment field, Lisa's eyes snapped open. The blue glow had intensified, filling her entire eye socket with light. She turned her head slowly, her gaze finding Jake through the barrier. Her lips moved, forming words he could not hear through the medical field's dampening effect. Dr. Chen adjusted the controls, allowing sound to pass through. Lisa's voice came out changed, harmonics layered beneath her normal tone. "Jake," she said, "I can hear them." "Who?" he asked, stepping closer. "The crystalline. All of them. Every single one on this station. Their thoughts, their emotions, their memories. It is overwhelming." Commander Vale activated her communicator immediately. "Security, I want all crystalline personnel isolated and monitored. No exceptions." Lisa struggled against the containment field, her body pressing against its invisible boundaries. "No, you do not understand. They are not doing this to me. This is not an attack." "Then what is it?" Jake demanded. "Evolution," Lisa said. The word hung in the air like a bomb. Dr. Chen pulled up a holographic display showing Lisa's neural pathways. They had multiplied, creating new connections that branched through her brain like crystalline structures. Her nervous system was reorganizing itself, building something entirely new. "The crystalline have been waiting for this," Lisa continued. Her voice grew stronger, more confident. "For millions of years, they have been searching for another species compatible with the resonance. They thought they were alone in the universe, the only ones who could touch it. But humans, we have the capacity. We just never knew." Jake felt cold despite the station's regulated temperature. "What does that mean for you? What are you becoming?" Lisa smiled, and for a moment she looked like herself again, just her normal features beneath the glow. "I am becoming a bridge, the first human to connect with something older than our species, older than most civilizations in the galaxy. The resonance is not a weapon or a tool. It is a form of consciousness that exists between living beings. The crystalline have lived with it for so long that it is part of their biology now. When you shook the princess's hand, Jake, you became a conduit. Your genetic markers combined with my exposure to crystalline culture and artifacts, it created the perfect conditions for transference." Commander Vale crossed her arms. "That is a beautiful story, Ambassador. But I need facts. Are you a threat to this station? To humanity? Are you still human?" Lisa's expression hardened. "I am more human than I have ever been, and no, Commander, I am not a threat. But I am a problem, because now you have to decide what to do with someone who can hear the thoughts of every crystalline in the sector. Someone who knows their military positions, their strategic weaknesses, their deepest fears." The implications hit Jake like a physical blow. The diplomatic ramifications were staggering. If other governments learned that humans could access crystalline thoughts through the resonance, it would spark a paranoia that could shatter the fragile peace. Dr. Chen looked between them. "We need to bring in specialists, xenobiologists, neural engineers, maybe even theoretical physicists. This is beyond anything I was trained to handle." The station's alarm systems suddenly blared to life. Red lights pulsed through the medical bay. Commander Vale's communicator erupted with urgent voices. "Commander, we have a situation. The crystalline princess is demanding to speak with Ambassador Grant." He says if we do not allow it, her government will consider it an act of hostility. Jake saw Vale's hand drift toward her sidearm. That is not helping anyone, he said. She is just scared. They are all scared. Val rounded on him. And we are not? We have a human who can read alien minds. Security detail. Do you understand what that means? It means every government, every corporation, every military force in the galaxy will want her, dead or alive. Lisa's voice cut through the argument. Let the princess come. She deserves to know what her people's legacy has done. Bile hesitated, then nodded sharply. She opened a channel. Send the princess to Medical Bay 3. Maximum security escort. No other crystalline personnel allowed. The weight felt eternal. Jake watched Lisa float in her containment field, her body continuing its transformation. The crystalline patterns had spread across her skin, creating geometric designs that pulsed with inner light. She looked beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. When the princess arrived, flanked by 6 heavily armed security officers, the tension in the room became suffocating. Crystalline Dawn approached the containment barrier slowly, her movements careful and deliberate. She looked at Lisa with an expression Jake was learning to read, wonder mixed with grief. You are the first, the princess said through her translator. In all our history, we have never successfully shared the resonance with another species. Thousands have tried. All have failed. Many have died. Lisa met her gaze. Why did you try with me? What made you think it would be different? I did not try, the princess replied. I had no intention of initiating a transfer. It simply happened. But when the human male touched me, something in his genetic structure resonated with the latent resonance you had absorbed through years of cultural immersion. It was chance. Beautiful, terrible chance. Jake felt sick. So I did this to her. The princess turned to him. You were a catalyst. Nothing more, nothing less. The resonance chooses its own path. We are merely vessels. Commander Vale stepped forward. What happens now? Do we treat this as a medical condition, a security threat? A miracle? The princess's translator chirped for a long moment before rendering her response. You treat it as the beginning of something unprecedented. The ambassador will need training. She will need guidance from our elders who understand the resonance most deeply, and she will need protection. Because you are correct, Commander. Every power in the galaxy will want to control or destroy what she represents. Lisa pressed her hand against the containment field from the inside. I can feel your fear, Princess. All of you. You are afraid that humans will use this power as a weapon, that we will turn the resonance into something brutal and violent. The princess did not deny it. Your species has a reputation, one earned through centuries of conflict. But the resonance cannot be weaponized. It is connection, not control. Anyone who tries to force it will be destroyed by it. Their minds will shatter under the weight of consciousness they are not prepared to bear. Dr. Chen cleared his throat. Ambassador, your transformation appears to be stabilizing. I recommend we lower the containment field gradually and monitor your responses. Lisa nodded. Do it. As the field dissipated, Jake held his breath. Lisa's feet touched the floor, and she swayed slightly. He moved to catch her, but she held up a hand. Everything feels different, heavier and lighter at the same time. She took a tentative step, then another. The glow in her eyes had dimmed, but not disappeared. When she finally stood on her own, she turned to face them all. I know what you are all thinking, every one of you. Commander Vale, you are already drafting a report that will recommend my immediate transfer to a black site facility for study and containment. Dr. Chen, you are wondering if you should sedate me for everyone's safety. Princess, you are debating whether to request my extradition to crystalline space, to be trained among your people. And Jake, her gaze found him, and he felt stripped bare under its intensity. You are blaming yourself and trying to figure out how to protect me from what is coming. The silence that followed confirmed every word. Commander Vale recovered first. If you can read our thoughts, Ambassador, then you know we have no choice. You are too valuable and too dangerous to remain unsecured. Lisa's expression turned sad. I know. And that is why I am not giving you a choice. Before anyone could react, Lisa turned and walked toward the princess. She extended her hand, palm up, in the traditional crystalline gesture of trust. The security officers tensed, weapons half raised, but the princess moved faster. She took Lisa's hand without hesitation. The moment their skin touched, the room exploded with light. Jake shielded his eyes against the brilliant blue radiance that filled the medical bay. When his vision cleared, Lisa and the princess stood together, their hands clasped, both glowing with the same crystalline luminescence. The light pulsed between them like a heartbeat, synchronizing their breathing, their movements, their very existence. Commander Vale shouted orders, but her voice seemed distant and muted compared to the sound Jake suddenly heard. Music, not sound exactly, but a vibration that bypassed his ears and resonated directly in his chest. It was the resonance made audible, and it was the most beautiful and terrifying thing he had ever experienced. Dr. Chen stumbled backward, his equipment sparking and failing as the energy discharge overwhelmed the medical bay's systems. Emergency lights kicked in, bathing everything in harsh red. The security officers maintained their positions, but Jake could see the uncertainty in their faces. They had no protocol for this. When the light finally faded, Lisa and the princess remained standing, but something fundamental had changed. They moved in perfect synchronization, releasing each other's hands at exactly the same moment, turning to face the others with identical expressions. Lisa spoke first, but her voice carried those same harmonic layers that now defined her speech. I am sorry for the dramatic display. It was necessary to establish a proper connection with the princess, to show all of you what the resonance truly means. The princess continued, her words flowing seamlessly from Lisa's. We are not one being. We are two individuals sharing a deeper understanding. This is what the resonance offers. Not domination, but communion. Commander Vale had her weapon drawn, though she kept it lowered. I need both of you to stand down. Whatever is happening here, we need to understand it before anyone makes another move. Jake stepped between the commander and the two glowing figures. Lower your weapon. They are not attacking anyone. Vale's eyes flashed with anger. That is not your call to make, security detail. Step aside or I will have you removed. Lisa and the princess moved forward together, their steps perfectly matched. Commander Vale, Lisa said, her tone gentle but firm, I understand your fear. You are responsible for 3,000 lives on this station. The thought of an unknown variable, especially one that could potentially access secure information, terrifies you. But threatening us with weapons will only escalate a situation that does not need to be hostile, the princess added. We wish only to demonstrate that the resonance is not a threat. It is an opportunity for deeper understanding between our species. Jake felt his communicator vibrate. He glanced at the message scrolling across his wrist display. Multiple coalition ships were entering the sector. Word had already spread about what was happening on the station. Within hours, this medical bay would become the center of an interstellar incident. We are running out of time, he said. Whatever you two are planning, you need to do it now. Lisa turned to him, and for a moment her expression softened. She looked like the woman who had hired him 3 months ago, who had laughed at his terrible jokes during the long transit from Earth, who had trusted him to keep her safe in rooms full of potentially hostile aliens. Jake Morrison, she said, you have been a friend, and that is why I need you to trust me now, even though what I am about to ask will sound insane. He knew what was coming. The words formed in his mind a split second before she spoke them. You want me to let you leave? To take the princess and run before Vale locks everything down? Lisa's eyes widened slightly. Bid. The beginning stages of resonance sensitivity. Your brief contact with the princess combined with your proximity to me during the transformation, it has marked you. Jake felt cold. I do not want this. I did not ask for any of this. No one ever asks, the princess said. The resonance finds those who are ready, whether they know it or not. Your species has a saying, you cannot put the toothpaste back in the tube. Commander Vale raised her weapon fully now, aiming at Lisa. Nobody is going anywhere. Ambassador Grant, you are hereby confined to this facility, pending a full investigation. Any attempt to leave will be considered an act of treason. Lisa and the princess did not move. They simply stood there, glowing, waiting. Jake realized they were not planning to fight. They were planning something else entirely. The medical bay's external doors suddenly blasted inward. Not with explosives, but with a wave of crystalline energy that sheared through the reinforced metal like paper. 6 more crystalline figures entered, their bodies radiating power. These were not diplomats. These were warriors, though their species supposedly did not have such a caste. Commander Vale opened fire. The plasma rounds dissolved into light before they reached the crystalline warriors. One of them stepped forward, speaking in a musical language that needed no translator. Jake understood every word, the meaning flowing directly into his mind. The ambassador and our princess will leave this station. Any who attempt to prevent this will be rendered unconscious but unharmed. We do not wish violence, but we will not allow humanity's fear to imprison what may be our species' greatest gift to each other. Viola scrambled for her communicator. All security teams to Medical Bay 3. Full lockdown protocols. Shoot to disable. The station's internal defenses activated. Automated turrets dropped from the ceiling, their targeting systems locking onto the crystalline warriors. Jake moved without thinking. He placed himself between the turrets and the aliens, spreading his arms wide. "Everyone stop!" His voice carried a harmonic resonance he had never heard from himself before. The sound froze everyone in place. Human security forces poured through the damaged doorway, weapons raised. The crystalline warriors prepared to defend themselves, light gathering around their crystalline hands. Lisa and the princess remained calm at the center of the storm, their eyes meeting Jake's. In that moment, he understood. This was the test. Not the transformation, not the first contact with the resonance, but this. Whether humanity could look at something new and strange and resist the urge to destroy or control it. He turned to Commander Vale. "If you open fire, you start a war. Not just with the crystalline, but with every species that sees humans as too dangerous to coexist with. We will become the monsters everyone already fears we are." Vale's hand trembled. Her weapon remained raised. "They invaded my station. They are kidnapping a human citizen. I have every right to defend against that." Jake shook his head. "Lisa is not being kidnapped. She is choosing to leave, because staying here means becoming a lab rat or a weapon. You know that is what will happen. The Coalition will never let her remain free." The princess spoke, her words laden with sorrow. "We have seen this pattern before, Commander. A species discovers the resonance exists. They panic. They try to weaponize it or eliminate it. Either path leads to catastrophe. Humanity stands at a crossroads." Dr. Chen stepped forward, his hands raised in a gesture of peace. "Commander, my readings show that Ambassador Grant's transformation is irreversible. She cannot go back to being fully human. Our only choice is how we respond to that reality." Val looked around the room, at the weapons trained on the crystalline warriors, at Lisa and the princess glowing with otherworldly power, at Jake standing between two forces that could tear the station apart, at the growing crowd of station personnel gathering outside, their faces filled with fear and confusion. She lowered her weapon. One person relaxing in a room full of tension, but it was enough. The other security forces hesitated, then followed their commander's lead. Vale's voice came out hoarse. "You have 1 hour to leave this station, Ambassador Grant. After that, I will have no choice but to report this as an abduction and request military intervention." Lisa smiled, the expression achingly human despite the glow. "Thank you, Patricia. I know what this will cost you." The crystalline warriors moved to escort Lisa and the princess out. As they passed Jake, Lisa paused. She reached out and touched his shoulder, and he felt warmth spread through him, a gift and a curse. "Come with us," she said softly. "You have already begun the transformation. Staying here will only delay the inevitable. And when it completes, you will be alone, confused, and possibly imprisoned." He wanted to say yes. Every fiber of his being screamed that leaving was the right choice, but something held him back. If I go, humanity loses a voice that can speak for the resonance from the inside. Someone who is not fully transformed. Someone who can help both sides understand each other. Lisa's eyes glistened, tears forming at the edges of that blue glow. "You are braver than you know, Jake Morrison." The princess placed her hand over Lisa's on Jake's shoulder. The contact sent another wave of warmth through him. "We will return for you," she said. "When the time is right, when humanity is ready to truly listen, you will be the bridge we need." Then they were gone, the crystalline warriors escorting them through the damaged doorway and into the station's corridors. Alarms continued to blare. Security forces scrambled to track their movement, but Jake knew it was futile. The crystalline had come prepared. They would be off the station within minutes, disappearing into the vastness of space before any pursuit could be organized. Commander Vale collapsed into a chair, her head in her hands. "I just ended my career. Court-martial at best, treason charges at worst." Jake sat beside her. "You saved lives, probably thousands of them. That has to count for something." She laughed bitterly. "In the official report, they will say I showed weakness. That I let fear of alien retaliation compromise human security. Dr. Chen was already packing his equipment, his movements mechanical. I need to document everything that happened. Every scan, every reading. If humanity is going to understand the resonance, we need data." Jake felt exhaustion crashing over him. His body ached. His mind reeled from everything he had witnessed. But beneath it all, he felt something else. A presence. Not voices or thoughts, but an awareness that he was not alone in his own head. The resonance had marked him, just as Lisa said, and now he would have to live with the consequences. His communicator buzzed with an incoming message marked urgent and confidential. He opened it expecting orders to report for debriefing or quarantine. Instead, he found a video file. Lisa's face filled the small screen. She must have recorded it before the crystalline warriors arrived. Jake, her recorded voice said, "What comes next will be difficult. The Coalition will want answers you cannot give. Intelligence agencies will try to recruit or intimidate you. Scientists will want to study you. Through it all, remember that you have value beyond what the resonance makes you. You are not a tool or a weapon. You are a person who made an impossible choice to stay behind. To be the voice of something new in a world that fears change, I will find you again. When I do, I hope you will have helped our species take its first real steps toward understanding. Until then, stay alive, stay human, and do not let them make you into something you are not." The message ended. Jake deleted it immediately, knowing that keeping it would only provide ammunition for those who would claim he was complicit in Lisa's departure. Commander Vale watched him. What did it say? Jake met her eyes. That I need to write one hell of a report. And that things are about to get a lot more complicated. She nodded slowly. For what it is worth, I am glad you stayed. I do not trust easily, but I trust you did what you thought was right. The question is whether that will be enough. Outside the medical bay, the station descended into controlled chaos. Emergency protocols activated. Diplomatic channels lit up with furious demands for explanations. And somewhere in the depths of space, Lisa and the princess began their journey to wherever the resonance would take them. Jake stood and walked to the damaged doorway, looking out at the stars through the distant viewports. He could feel the change inside him, growing slowly but inevitably. Soon he would have to make another choice, to resist what he was becoming, or to embrace it. But for now, he was still Jake Morrison, still human, still standing between two worlds that barely understood each other, and that would have to be enough. The interrogation room was cold and sterile, designed to be uncomfortable without being overtly hostile. Jake had been sitting in the metal chair for 6 hours, answering the same questions from different officials in different uniforms. Coalition intelligence, military command, scientific advisory boards. They all wanted to know the same thing. What did Lisa tell him? What could he feel? What was happening inside his head? He gave them the truth, or at least as much of it as he could articulate. The resonance was not something that translated well into words. It was like trying to explain color to someone who had only ever seen in grayscale. You used the metaphors, deployed the analogies, and still fell short of capturing the reality. The current interrogator was a woman named Victoria Barnes, wearing the insignia of Coalition Intelligence. She had cold eyes and a voice that could cut glass. Her questions came rapid fire, designed to catch inconsistencies. "You claim Ambassador Grant left voluntarily," Barnes said, tapping her tablet. "Yet multiple witnesses report seeing you physically block security forces from preventing her departure. How do you reconcile that?" Jake rubbed his eyes. His exhaustion was making it hard to focus. "I blocked security because opening fire would have killed people. The Crystalline Warriors made it clear they would defend themselves. It was not about helping Lisa escape. It was about preventing a massacre." Barnes leaned forward. "And the fact that you were also experiencing symptoms of resonance exposure had nothing to do with your decision? You were not protecting one of your own kind?" He wanted to laugh at the absurdity. "I have known Lisa for 3 months. I have been human my entire life. My loyalty is not in question just because I touched an alien's hand. But we have testimony from Dr. Chen that you demonstrated resonance abilities. You understood crystalline speech without a translator. You produced harmonic vocalizations that affected everyone in the room. Those are not normal human capabilities, Morrison." Jake met her gaze steadily. "No, they are not. But having abilities does not make me a traitor. It makes me a witness to something unprecedented, something your people should be trying to understand rather than fear." Barnes sat back, her expression unreadable. Fear is a rational response to the unknown, especially when the unknown can potentially read minds and influence thoughts. We have reports that the crystalline resonance has been used for espionage, manipulation, even subtle forms of mind control. Jake felt anger flare in his chest. "Those reports are based on speculation and paranoia." "The crystalline have been our trading partners for decades. If they wanted to control humanity, they have had plenty of opportunities." The door opened, interrupting the interrogation. A man in civilian clothes entered, carrying a briefcase that looked expensive and official. Barnes stood immediately, her posture shifting to something more deferential. "Director, I was not expecting you." The man waved her off. "Leave us. I need to speak with Morrison privately." Barnes hesitated, then gathered her tablet and left without another word. The door sealed behind her with a heavy click. The man sat down across from Jake, placing his briefcase on the table. He was older, maybe 60, with gray hair and sharp features that suggested a lifetime of making hard decisions. My name is Richard Cross. I run a division of coalition intelligence that most people do not know exists. Our job is to handle situations that fall outside normal protocols. Jake kept his expression neutral. And I am one of those situations. Cross smiled thinly. You, Ambassador Grant, and the entire concept of human crystalline resonance bonding. Yes, Morrison, you are very much our kind of situation. He opened his briefcase and pulled out a folder. Inside were photographs. Lisa glowing with blue light. The crystalline princess extending her hand. Jake standing between armed forces with his arms spread wide, all taken from security footage. We have been monitoring crystalline cultural integration programs for years, Cross said. We suspected that deep exposure might lead to some form of biological or psychological change, but we never anticipated this. Actual cellular transformation, the creation of a hybrid consciousness. It is remarkable and terrifying in equal measure. Jake felt the resonance stirring inside him, a faint awareness of Cross's emotional state beneath his controlled exterior. The man was not afraid, he was excited. That is what this is really about, Jake said quietly. You do not want to contain the resonance. You want to understand it so you can use it. Cross did not deny it. Knowledge is power, Morrison. The ability to truly understand alien psychology, to communicate without the barriers of language and culture, to forge connections that transcend species boundaries. Imagine what humanity could accomplish with that capability. We could unite the galaxy or tear it apart. Exactly, Cross said. Which is why we need people like you. People who have been marked by the resonance but still maintain their human identity and loyalties. You could be the prototype for something extraordinary. Jake felt sick. You want to create more people like me? Turn them into tools for intelligence gathering. Cross leaned back in his chair. I prefer to think of it as evolution guided by purpose. But yes, essentially. We have already identified several candidates. People with genetic markers similar to yours. High empathy, adaptable neural pathways, strong pattern recognition. With controlled exposure to crystalline artifacts and culture, we believe we can replicate what happened to you and Ambassador Grant. No, Jake said flatly. Cross raised an eyebrow. No, you do not get to make that choice. You are a government employee. You sign contracts that give us considerable latitude in how we utilize your services. Besides, would it really be so terrible? You would be helping humanity take its place among the stars. Helping or conquering. Jake stood up despite his exhaustion. The resonance is not a weapon. It is a form of consciousness that exists to create understanding. If you try to weaponize it, you will destroy everything it represents. Cross remained seated, his expression calm. Sit down, Morrison. You are not leaving this room until we reach an understanding. Jake felt the resonance pulse inside him, stronger now. He could sense the guards outside the door, their alertness, their readiness to respond to any disturbance. He could feel Cross's determination, the absolute certainty that he was right. And beneath it all, he could sense something else, a presence reaching out across the void of space. Lisa. She was trying to contact him through the resonance. The connection was faint and unstable, but it was there. She was showing him something. A vision of what the crystalline truly wanted. Not conquest or manipulation, but genuine partnership. Species learning from each other, growing together, building something greater than either could achieve alone. But she was also showing him the danger. Other factions within both human and crystalline governments who wanted to exploit the resonance, who saw it as a tool for domination rather than cooperation. The vision faded, leaving Jake gasping. Cross was watching him with intense interest. What just happened? You went completely still for almost a minute. Jake made a decision. He let the resonance flow through him, not to attack or control, but to share. He reached out and touched Cross's hand. The man jerked back, but it was too late. For just a moment, Jake opened a window into what he had experienced, the overwhelming beauty of connecting with another consciousness, the terrifying vulnerability of having your thoughts and emotions laid bare, the profound understanding that came from truly knowing another being. When Jake released him, Cross sat frozen in his chair. His carefully controlled expression had cracked, revealing something raw beneath. "What did you just do to me?" he whispered. Jake sat back down. "I showed you the truth. The resonance cannot be controlled or weaponized because it requires absolute honesty and vulnerability. Anyone who tries to use it for manipulation will be exposed. Their intentions will be transparent to everyone they connect with. It is the ultimate defense against exploitation." Cross's hands trembled as he gripped the edge of the table. "That was the most invasive thing anyone has ever done to me, and the most honest," Jake added. Now you understand why forcing this on people, trying to create a program around it, that will fail. You cannot train someone to be vulnerable. You cannot weaponize trust. The older man took several deep breaths, visibly trying to regain his composure. You have made this significantly more complicated, Morrison. I came here expecting to recruit you. Now I am not sure what to do with you. Jake felt the exhaustion returning. Join the club. I have been asking myself the same question since this started. Cross closed his briefcase slowly. I am going to recommend that you be placed under observation, not imprisonment, but monitoring. We need to document your progression as the resonance continues to affect you. And we need to ensure you do not pose a security risk. In exchange, I will advocate against the forced recruitment program, at least until we better understand what we are dealing with. It was not the freedom Jake wanted, but it was better than being locked in a black site. He nodded. One condition. Cross raised an eyebrow. You are hardly in a position to make demands. Jake met his eyes. When Lisa returns, and she will return, you do not treat her as an enemy. She is still a human being, still a citizen, still someone who deserves rights and dignity. Cross considered this. If she returns peacefully and demonstrates no hostile intent, I can agree to that. But if she comes back leading a crystalline fleet or attempting to spread the resonance against people's will, all agreements are void. Fair enough, Jake said. The door opened again, and 2 guards entered. Cross stood, smoothing his suit. These officers will escort you to more comfortable quarters. You will have access to communication, entertainment, and basic amenities, but you will not be allowed to leave the secure section of the station. And Morrison, Jake looked back at him, thank you for what you showed me. It does not change my job, but it changes how I will approach it. That might make all the difference. After Cross left, the guards led Jake through the station's corridors. Other personnel watched him pass with expressions ranging from curiosity to fear. Word had spread. He was the human who could touch the resonance, the man who had helped an ambassador escape, the prototype for something no one fully understood. His new quarters were actually decent. A small apartment with a bedroom, bathroom, and living area. Someone had even brought his personal belongings from his old quarters. As the door sealed behind him, Jake collapsed onto the bed. The last 48 hours crashed down on him all at once. He had stood in the center of an interstellar incident, had felt his body begin to change on a cellular level, had touched another person's consciousness and shown them the raw truth of his existence, and through it all, he kept thinking about Lisa. Was she safe with the crystalline? Was her transformation progressing smoothly? Would she really come back, or had she left humanity behind forever? His communicator buzzed. Not an official message this time, but something that bypassed normal channels. The text was simple. Thank you for staying. Thank you for understanding. Thank you for being the bridge we need. When the time comes, you will know what to do. The resonance will guide you. Stay strong, Jake Morrison. Humanity's future depends on people like you. People who can stand between fear and understanding. Who can hold the line when others want to charge forward or retreat. You are not alone. Even across the stars we are connected now. The message deleted itself after he read it, leaving no trace. But Jake felt the truth of it resonating inside him. He was not alone. He was part of something larger now. Something ancient and new simultaneously. And whatever came next, whatever trials and tests humanity would face as they learned to coexist with the resonance, he would be there, standing between worlds, translating the untranslatable, helping his species take its first stumbling steps toward a future they could barely imagine. Outside his window, the stars burned with cold light. Somewhere out there, Lisa and the princess were beginning their journey. And here, in a comfortable prison on a space station, Jake began his, both paths leading toward the same destination. A universe where understanding mattered more than power, where connection trumped conquest, where humanity learned to be more than it had ever been before. The resonance pulsed inside him like a second heartbeat, growing stronger every day, changing him in ways he could not yet comprehend. But for now, he was still Jake Morrison, still human, still holding on to the parts of himself that mattered. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new questions, new fears. But tonight he would rest and dream of a future where humans and crystalline stood together, where the resonance flowed freely between species, where the girl who had quivered when he shook hands with an alien princess had become something extraordinary, something that might just save them all. 3 months passed in the secure wing of the station. Jake's days fell into a predictable rhythm, morning physical assessments to track the resonance's effects on his body, afternoon cognitive testing to measure changes in his neural pathways, evening interviews with various scientists, psychologists, and military strategists, all trying to understand what he was becoming. He cooperated with most of it. Not because he wanted to, but because resistance would only make things worse. And because buried beneath the invasive testing was genuine scientific curiosity. These people were not all monsters. Some genuinely wanted to understand the resonance. To help humanity navigate this new reality without destroying themselves or others, Dr. Chen visited regularly. He had become something like a friend, or at least an ally. He brought updates from outside the secure wing, news that painted a complicated picture of how humanity was processing the Lisa situation. The official story was that Ambassador Grant had been kidnapped by crystalline extremists. That narrative played well with populations already suspicious of alien intentions. But alternative versions circulated in underground networks and independent media. Stories about voluntary transformation, about humans evolving to something greater, about the possibility of true interspecies connection. Public opinion was split. Some called Lisa a traitor. Others called her a pioneer. Most people were simply afraid of what her transformation meant for humanity's future. She has become a symbol, Chen said during one visit, sitting across from Jake in the small living area. People project their hopes and fears onto her. They do not see her as a person anymore, just an idea. Jake understood that feeling. He was becoming an idea too, the human marked by the resonance, a prototype, the warning or the promise, depending on who was telling the story. Have you heard from her? Chen asked quietly. Jake hesitated. The room was certainly monitored, but Chen's expression suggested he already suspected the answer. Occasionally. Not words exactly. More like impressions. Emotions. She is somewhere far from here, learning things about the crystalline that few outsiders ever see. Chen nodded slowly. And you? How do you feel? Honestly? Trapped. Jake stood and walked to the window. The view showed the same stars he had watched for months. Somewhere out there, Lisa was free. He was not. But also changing. Every day I can sense more. The people around me, their emotions, their intentions, is like developing a new sense, like gaining the ability to see colors you never knew existed. Is it frightening? Jake considered the question. Terrifying, because I know it is not going to stop. Eventually, I will be more connected to the resonance than to my human identity. And then what? What happens to Jake Morrison when the transformation completes? Chen pulled out a tablet showing graphs and neural scans. Based on my projections, you have maybe 6 months before you reach a critical threshold. After that, your brain structure will be fundamentally different. You will still be you, but also something more. I recommend we begin preparing you for that transition. Training you in meditation and mental discipline, giving you tools to maintain your sense of self even as it expands. Before Jake could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Not the standard emergency warnings, but something new. A deep, resonating tone that made his teeth ache. Chen jumped up, checking his communicator. What is happening? Jake already knew. He could feel it through the resonance. A massive presence approaching the station. Multiple consciousnesses moving in perfect synchronization. They are here, he said. The crystalline. And Lisa is with them. Security forces mobilized within minutes. Jake's door was sealed from the outside, locking him in his quarters. Through the window he could see ships materializing from faster-than-light transit. Crystalline vessels, their hulls shimmering with the same blue light that marked Lisa's transformation. But these were not diplomatic shuttles. These were warships. 3 of them, each easily twice the size of the station itself. Chen's communicator buzzed with urgent messages. He listened, his face going pale. They are demanding to speak with you, Jake. You, specifically. The crystalline princess is on the lead ship and Ambassador Grant is with her. They say they will not negotiate with anyone else. Jake felt vindication and terror in equal measure. I told Director Cross this would happen. Lisa came back. But Chen, she did not come back alone. The door unsealed, and guards entered. Not the casual escorts Jake had grown accustomed to, but fully armed soldiers in combat gear. They surrounded him with weapons ready. One spoke with terse efficiency. You are coming with us, Morrison. Commander Vale wants you in the main conference room. Now. They marched him through corridors filled with panicked personnel. Emergency protocols had transformed the station. Blast doors sealed key sections. Defensive systems armed and targeted the crystalline ships. Civilians were being evacuated to core shelters. This was not a diplomatic visit. This was a show of force. The conference room was crowded. Commander Vale stood at the head of the table, her face haggard. She had not slept in days, Jake could see. Director Cross was there too, along with a dozen other officials Jake did not recognize. Military brass, intelligence analysts, political advisors, all staring at him like he was a bomb about to explode. Morrison, Vale said without preamble. The crystalline are refusing to communicate through normal diplomatic channels. They say they will only speak with you. They claim you are the only human who can truly understand their message. What do they want? Jake asked. Ballet activated the main display. Lisa's face filled the screen, and Jake's heart stuttered. She looked the same, but completely different. The blue glow had intensified, spreading across her entire body. Her eyes were pure light. Patterns of crystal growth traced geometric designs across her skin. She was beautiful and alien in equal measure. Jake, she said, and her voice carried harmonics that made the speakers crackle. It is good to see you. I have missed you. He wanted to ask 1,000 questions, but Director Cross stepped forward. Ambassador Grant, you are in violation of multiple coalition laws. You will surrender yourself immediately and submit to medical evaluation. Lisa's expression did not change. I am no longer subject to coalition authority. I have transcended national and species boundaries. I am something new, and I have returned to offer humanity a choice. The room erupted in angry voices, accusations of treason, demands for her arrest, threats of military action. Jake watched it all with growing despair. These people could not see past their fear and anger. They could not comprehend what Lisa had become. Silence, he said. His voice carried the same harmonic resonance Lisa's had, and it cut through the chaos like a blade. Everyone froze, turning to stare at him. He had not meant to use the resonance to compel attention, but it had happened instinctively. Lisa smiled from the screen. You have grown stronger. The transformation is accelerating in you. Good. You will need that strength for what comes next. Jake approached the display. What choice are you offering? Lisa's image was joined by the crystalline princess. Together they spoke in perfect unison, their voices creating harmonics that were almost musical. Humanity stands at a crossroads. You can continue on your current path, isolated, fearful, treating the resonance as a threat to be contained or weaponized. Or you can embrace what Lisa and Jake represent, the beginning of a new phase in human evolution, not replacing what you are, but expanding it. The military officer to Vale's right slammed his fist on the table. This is an invasion. You are demanding we change ourselves to suit alien preferences. How is that different from conquest? The princess's voice came through clearly. We demand nothing. We offer. Those who wish to explore the resonance will be welcomed. Those who choose to remain as they are will be respected. But you cannot have both. You cannot study us, weaponize what you learn, and expect peaceful coexistence. Prost leaned forward, his expression calculating. What happens if we refuse? What if we order those ships to leave and threaten military action if they do not comply? Lisa's glow intensified. Then we leave, and humanity remains alone. Cut off from the resonance. Unable to truly communicate with the dozens of species across the galaxy who have embraced it. You will build walls around yourselves until those walls become a prison. Jake felt the truth of her words resonating inside him. This was not a threat. It was a prediction. Humanity's fear would isolate them, turn them into outsiders in a universe that was learning to connect in ways they could not comprehend. But he also understood the human perspective. The coalition leaders were not villains. They were terrified people trying to protect their species from an unknown threat, trying to maintain control in a situation that had spiraled far beyond anyone's expectations. There is another option, Jake said. Everyone turned to him. We create a program, voluntary, no coercion, no pressure. People who want to explore the resonance can do so with full knowledge of the risks and consequences. Those who do not can remain exactly as they are. We establish protocols for how resonance-enhanced humans interact with those who are not. We build bridges instead of walls. Director Cross shook his head. That is naive. You are asking people to trust that those with resonance abilities will not abuse them, that they will not read minds, manipulate emotions, or share classified information with alien governments. How do you guarantee that? You cannot, Jake admitted. But you also cannot guarantee that nuclear weapons will never be used, or that artificial intelligence will never turn hostile, or that any powerful technology will remain benevolent. At some point, you have to choose between fear and trust, between isolation and connection. Commander Vale had been silent through most of the exchange. Now she spoke, her voice tired. Let us say we agree to this voluntary program. How would it work? Who would oversee it? What happens to those who transform? Lisa's image moved closer to the screen. I will oversee it, along with Jake and a council of both human and crystalline members who have experience with the resonance. We will establish facilities far from major population centers. Individuals who volunteer will undergo extensive psychological evaluation. The process will be gradual, giving people time to adapt and change their minds. And those who complete the transformation will have the option to remain with their original communities or join new settlements where resonance-enhanced individuals can support each other. The military officer was not satisfied. And we are just supposed to trust you? Trust that you have not been compromised by alien influence? That you still care about humanity? Lisa's expression hardened. I care about humanity more than I ever did before, because now I can truly understand it. I can feel the collective fear, the desperate need for security, the deep loneliness that drives so much of human aggression. I want to help us move past that, but I cannot force you. None of us can. This has to be a choice freely made. Jake felt the weight of the moment. History pivoting on what happened in this room. He turned to Director Cross. You wanted to create a program to study and utilize the resonance. Here is your chance. But not as a weapon or an intelligence tool, as a genuine opportunity for growth. Cross met his gaze for a long moment. When Jake had touched his hand months ago, shown him the truth of the resonance, something had shifted in the man. Not enough to eliminate his calculating nature, but enough to introduce doubt. Enough to make him question whether control was always the answer. I will need to consult with coalition leadership, Cross said finally. This is not a decision I can make alone, but I will recommend that we proceed with Ambassador Grant's proposal, on a trial basis. Limited volunteers, maximum oversight, clear termination protocols if things go wrong. Lisa nodded. That is acceptable. We will wait for your official response. But Director Cross, understand this. The universe is changing. Species are connecting in ways that transcend language and culture. Humanity can be part of that change or become obsolete. Choose wisely. The transmission ended. The screen went dark, leaving the room in tense silence. Jake knew the real negotiations would begin now. Hours of debate, legal consultations, political maneuvering. But something fundamental had shifted. A door had opened, just a crack. Whether humanity would walk through it remained to be seen. Val dismissed most of the room, keeping only Cross, Jake, and a few senior advisors. They talked through the night, hammering out the framework for what would become known as the Resonance Integration Program. Details about location, funding, volunteer criteria, safeguards. Jake participated in all of it, offering insights from his own experience. His transformation had progressed far enough that he could sense the emotional undercurrents beneath every argument. Who was genuinely concerned about safety? Who was trying to maintain institutional power? Who was simply terrified of change? By morning, they had a preliminary agreement. Cross would present it to coalition leadership. Lisa and the crystalline princess would wait in orbit for a response. And Jake would continue his transformation, preparing for a role he had never wanted but could no longer avoid. He was going to be a bridge, a translator between species and states of being. It was exhausting, terrifying, and somehow right. As the meeting broke up, Val pulled him aside. I do not trust any of this, she said bluntly. But I trust you. Whatever happens with this program, remember that you are still human. Do not let them take that away from you. Jake smiled wearily. I will do my best. But, Commander, being human might mean something different soon. For all of us. She nodded slowly. Then we better make sure that difference is worth it. Jake returned to his quarters, exhaustion overwhelming him. But before he could collapse into sleep, he felt a presence reaching through the resonance. Lisa stronger, now that she was so close. She showed him visions of what could be, humans and crystalline working together, other species joining the resonance network, a galaxy united not by politics or military power, but by genuine understanding. It was beautiful. It was impossible. It was the only path forward that did not end in isolation or war, and Jake was going to help make it real whether he was ready or not.